Welcome to the GLAC Studio Oil Painting Tutorial Nature Study 2. Today we are going to paint along together on a nature study. I have taken some pictures of the place where I live in nice surroundings. So this is what we are going to paint together. You will find the same picture in the description box. And for now, let me just share the screen to show you what exactly we are going to work on. So this is the picture that we are going to work on together today. If you look at this, unlike what we did in Nature Study 1, there was more of nature. There was a lot of green around and I think there was a pathway that we also did in Nature Study 1. This is again, there is a pathway, but this is different, and there's a lot of blue tonalities here or gray tonalities here, and we will see. We'll just look at what is the work we are going to do together. This is the picture that I took on the decks of Cinnabo, and I have a yacht here. And there's a pathway definitely made of wood leading to the yacht. So there's a nice subject, but let's not get bogged down by the subject. Let's look at what else is there. We do have a nice blue sky, but there's a little bit of gray and also white clouds. If we maximize and go behind and see, so there's a lot of elements up here. We have some forest area maybe, so there's a lot of trees back there, and then after the trees there's a rock bed. There's a rock bed, and after the rock bed comes this waterway, and you can see the yacht finally. So if we go from what is behind, so there's the sky, the clouds, and then there is this forest, there are some rock beds, then the yacht, and then comes the pathway. So, of course, there are many other tiny elements, but in a study, we will not go into the great details. Let's see how far we can go together. So, this is what we are going to work on today. It's a nice subject, and I think we are going to have fun painting this along, isn't it? Let's now get back to some materials, and I'm going to stop my video so that the focus goes fully on what is in here. Let's see what all we have. I'm going to use today a multimedia or a mixed media paper, and it's going to be A4 size. And I like this product from Clairefontaine. It helps me make very good tonalities and also be able to do a bit of layers also. The sheets are quite thick, and this is fair enough to get started with the practice. So it's an A4 size sheet that I'm going to use, and if you want to see the grams, it's 250 gram per meter square, and 115 L. This is what I'm going to use for painting the paper. And let's look at the brushes. I'm still going to use the store-bought brushes. Nothing special. I have sizes 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and then I do have 1. Those are the brushes. Let's look at the paint. I have a range of the old Classico brand that I've been using. These are from an Italian product, Mimeri, that I use, made in Italy. And I have some colors that I'm going to use. Let's see, from the picture that we have, there's more of blue. tonality, but there is a tendency that we will try to use blue tonalities. There's also a grayish blue tonality, so I want to keep that in mind. So I do have sky blue and I have Prussian blue. So let's see how we are going to use that. But I will also use ivory black where needed, not too much, and a little bit of raw umber. I have yellow ochre as well. I like the idea of having cadmium orange around. I don't know when I do pick up that most of the time, and I do recommend most of the time this color. It helps brighten up tonalities wherever needed. Let's see how we are using it today. And for the green, I think I will stick with chrome oxide today. So this is what I'm going to use, and let's see how far we get on with this. The palette that I'm using is or what do you call, a use and throw palette. So I'm going to just show you that. The paint's off. So this is the palette that I have. So I have sheets like this, and I've been using some colors before for my paintings. So I do have that, and I will also need titanium white. I will take that. I haven't taken it here, but I will take that. For the oil, I usually pour oil in small tin lids. I have 2 lids, usually one for darker tonalities and one for lighter tonalities, separating them because I don't want to mix things around and waste the oil. The oil that I use is cold pressed raw linseed oil. I do not use any faster drying mediums. I think I have spoken about it many times in all my videos that I'm a bit sensitive to smell, so I prefer something natural, and I would let it dry naturally. So this is what I try to do while painting most of the time. So I'm pouring it in smaller lids and mixing them whenever needed. And I don't tend to use too much of these oils because these pigments usually have their own texture, and I want it to come through also fully. And another thing is I don't want it to be totally flowy on the paper especially. So that's also why I don't tend to use too much of it, but I might dip a little bit. You will see that as we go along. So these are what we are going to work on today. So we talked about the subject we are going to work on, the paper we will be working on, the brushes that we will use, the oils that we use, and the palette that we use. I think we are now ready to paint along. In this A4 sheet, if you are not so comfortable, it's a good idea to use a pencil to draw some lines. It's okay to start directly as well if you are comfortable doing that. But I'm just eyeballing certain things that I want to be specific on where things are going to be. So for me, I can see that, there is this fair portion of sky that is coming up, and there is sea. And this is what I talked about even in the nature study 1, trying to define it really subtly and not going into the detail really helps us make certain partitions within our paper or the material that we are working on. So if I have to just say what is there is sea, and there is land, there's sky. So that's what it is, and even that is even more detailed. For me, I would say it's 2 parts. There's some part of earth, can we say, and then there is sky. Just 2. Only 2. So we are going to define 2. Can I say half of it is earth? Doesn't matter what it is. And I don't think it's a straight line also, so I don't need to bother putting a straight line across. So I'm just drawing a line and saying, so this half of it is going to be my earth and the other half is going to be the sky. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going into the detail yet. So for the sky, again, the sky has clouds and the clouds are really having a different color tonalities, meaning there's the white cloud, there are gray clouds, the clouds are small, there are big clouds. Fine. Again, we don't need to go into the detail. It's the sky. What is the sky color? Can we do that? A very simple one. So I'm going to get started with brush number, I think I have brush number 8 with me. So I will take a bit of the sky blue that I showed you. So I already have it nearby, so I don't need to take it from. So I'm just taking a little bit of that and I'm seeing, is this the color? No, definitely not. So it needs a lot of white and I have titanium white already with me. So I'm just going to blend that in. And I'll show you quickly when we get to that, when I'm taking a bit more of the titanium white. I'll show you that as well. So I'm just looking at the tonality. It is still on a side where it is not so natural. Yeah. So that's where I'm thinking. That's why I said, I might take Prussian blue also. So let me see if that goes well. So I've got a little bit of Prussian blue that I'm going to take, not too much, and I want to blend in and see what happens. So in a study, we are also experimenting different things and seeing, is the tonality coming up right or wrong? And don't spend too much time. If you have figured out certain things that are maybe nicer but not exactly the same, it's okay. This is how you have learned. So I'm taking a bit of Prussian blue and the sky blue is already there. I've mixed it. I've got a different color tonality. Maybe I will tone it down slightly a bit with titanium white to see how it is. This is fair enough for a blue for me. I think just seeing the combination how it is, and I think this is fair enough for a blue for me. I just dipped slightly into the oil, not too much. I don't need that much, especially on a paper. So I'm gonna go filling in my sky. Okay, I'm not bothered about whether the sky, has this detail or what's it going to look like and so on. I'm just going to do the part of the sky. When you do that, even though it's a first layer, in a study, this is also a good practice that you make sure that you don't leave out any space. And when you get bristles of the brushes falling down, make sure that you do not leave it on there. So these are tiny little things, but they do matter in terms of a good practice. A good practice will help you build a very good work ethic into what you're doing. Yeah? And that will help you go further on when you're making more detailed or more bigger, effective paintings. So even though it's a study, of course we are going to go a little faster, but we can all the time try to see that we build some good quality in that area that we are working on. Yeah, I've just started to put in that line that I did. I'm seeing if I need a little more. oil. I keep going on. With oil colors, if you are somebody that is new to oil colors, also understand that they can be pushed along. I'm just trying to push along and use what I already have on my paper. Maybe I will need a little more of that, a little more of the white. It's coming out so evenly for me, so I'm just trying to see if I can spread them across evenly. It turns slightly gray as well when you keep on moving it across, but because of the Persian blue and the sky blue that we have mixed, but that's exactly what I wanted as well. Okay. We're nearly there. Trying to see if I can push the color along, if I need more to blend, or can I push the color along? Yes. So there are people that like to first draw some lines, and maybe you would have expected that I do the yacht or the pathway or something to define. Even when we are doing the when we were doing the nature study 1, you would have noticed that I did this splitting into 2 halves, trying to define things into 2 halves. So right now, I'm done painting this. The sky, and right now what I'm going to do is to paint the earth, and I don't need to bother about the details that are going to come up. I'm just going to paint on this part, and this time I think I will need a little more of the Persian blue. I have it with me, so I'll take that, and let me see if I need to go into details of blending it with another color. Sometimes I try to see if I can use the same color along in the first and build the light tone artists later. That's also an interesting idea to work on. I'm just trying to see how it will look if I just do this. It's slightly darker, and I think it will help to add a bit of titanium white for us to blend in things whenever needed. And if you choose to work on this color also, I don't think it's wrong per se to work on it when we add the details as we work. you will find that it's interesting color, that it blends with many things. This is also an interesting idea. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of titanium white. Okay. Like I said, I've been transitioning in between oil colors and so on. I have moved on to Winsor & Newton for the commissions that I work on. I'm still using the old paints, not to base them, for the art study. That's why you saw the Classico brand. I had to switch brands because of the non-availability of the brand in the area that I live in. So when I switched, and I liked the idea of working with the Winsor & Newton products, then I'm starting to move on to those products. So for now, what we are doing is to take a bit of Winsor & Newton white that we have taken. Let me see. And I took a little bit of the white and blending it in to the color to see how it goes with what I want. I think this will be a good color. It's still dark. I wanted it to be darker. At the same time, speaking to all other colors, maybe I will need a bit of oil to start pushing it along. So doing that now. So it looks slightly grayish blue, isn't it? And that's exactly, I wanted to have this metallic effect. If you're someone that is doing it faster, you are welcome to do a fast forward and move on to the next step. If you are slow, then it's okay. You can pause this and finish up and then join me along. I've got a bit of paint in my hand, so I'm just cleaning up my hand. Okay. So I'm going to go along. I'm also someone who wants to have, vertical strokes or horizontal strokes going finely across. But because it's not a bigger scape, I'm just going about doing it every way. But usually, I also insist on my students doing it in a methodological fashion. And doing it, let's say if they choose to do it vertically, then they have to paint it vertically or horizontally or both ways. When we go over a canvas, understand that what we are working on right now is a paper. And the approach to paper will be slightly easier as compared to when we are working with canvas, so on paper maybe it doesn't matter that much, but in a canvas it's a cloth, so it will show that you are using different methods and to paint, and it's not in alignment. It might show. So it's important that you are sure of the style of painting or the brush strokes. Even at this stage, can you see that I made a mistake? I have added a little more of the titanium white, which I shouldn't have, so I just corrected along. Okay, coming back to the similar tonality that I had. Okay, good. Good. So let's continue. So this painting methodologically, or using a method to fill in the space is very important. Also, it gives you an understanding of the space that you are working with and your approach to it. The tendency I have seen with new beginners is that they are getting a little bit impatient with the idea, and then they want to go all over. So the tendency is that you start putting strokes across and this and that. You might not reach anywhere with that kind of approach, because it will get you even more frustrated when you see that the patterns aren't nicer when you are doing the second layer, third layer or so. Something have to be hidden or adjusted again and again. So you will see that it isn't beneficial in the long run to use various approaches, or various strokes left or right and criss and cross and so on. So try to use the pattern that is manageable for you. Then you will not get frustrated with it when you're at a later stage. Slow and steady. And the way I'm doing it, I have been doing it horizontally because I'm thinking of this painting as such. There's a lot of horizontal elements that we are going to build in. So when I move the brushes and paints along, when I make layers, it will help me in going in this direction that I wanted to. That's also a reason why I chose the horizontal direction. Checking if I have missed anything. Nearly there, but the first layer, See? It's slightly darker for me because I've stopped mixing the titanium white. I can see that, but I think I can live with it here because towards the end of it, it will be slightly different for me. It doesn't matter for me, but then if you're consistent, if you want to have the same kind of tonality, do that. I'm checking. So if you see me going backwards in the area where I painted, it's because that I see some spaces that are still white. Like I said, even though it's a first layer, try to work on the layer as though it's the final work. Every layer, give it the importance that it deserves, and the time it deserves to work on. So I have now painted fully the sheet, A4 size sheet, into two parts, and I see that there is still some white layers that I wanted to cover. I'm making sure that it's all done finally. Nothing shows up. Fair enough. Okay. So are we done with the first layer? Good. So now we are trying to define few more things, isn't it? So can we start with defining the things that are far away? So if you have to imagine the way we are working, it's going to be a reverse of what you will get to see on a camera. On a camera, when you're focusing, you see an object that is right in front of you. That's your main object. And in here, in our case, we have the yacht. and the pathway, maybe. You're focusing on that, but then what is the reverse of that? What is not in the focus? There are many other things that are not in the focus, but still inside the camera, isn't it? So we start from what is right behind, and we started with the sky. Yeah. And after the sky comes the clouds, isn't it? So it helps for us to do the clouds. Could we try the clouds? And now I'm going to move away this brush number 8 that I've been using for both the blues. And I will possibly pick up, I'm seeing brush number 6 that I have. Will be helpful, I think, to do the clouds. And I'm looking at fairly the area where the clouds are. Okay, and I'm going to start knocking in the colors. I will start with the titanium white. And remember, there's oil here, there's also paint here, so it's going to blend in. It's still wet, so I'm going to take a bit of titanium white and see the areas where I will show these white clouds. Yeah, so and I'm going to paint on. There will be some more layers of white that we will highlight later, depending upon the need of it. And then just getting to see where the white clouds are. Yeah, so there are some white clouds. And when I do that, it automatically blends in with the blue. That I'm not worried too much about right now. I'm just going to eyeball where exactly are these clouds. So there are some on the left and some on the right, but they are not really above, because those clouds are grayer clouds. So the whiter clouds are almost, close to the line where the skyline is touching the earth. So I have defined that in here slightly, and then this portion is slightly gray. Even in the gray tonality, there's a lot of variations. Can you see? And so this gray is slightly lighter as compared to the gray that we will do on top. There's so many elements to it. I'm just looking at that. The whiter portions of the cloud that I want to show, I'm trying to focus on them because I've got titanium white with me. Okay, so this again is slightly whiter or lighter areas, and they will be blending in with some more of gray when I do the gray. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now to move on, and this also can be slightly whiter because I will turn it gray when I need to. So I think this is fair enough for me to define the spaces where it is more brighter or whiter clouds. And if we go back to the Prussian blue that we have been using, and that's also a good color to go back to mix and make a gray. And to that, I think I will add a little bit of ivory black, not too much. So I already have ivory black with me here in my palette. If you don't, you can pick up. And I'm taking that and mixing that to the Persian blue that I have, to see how it looks. Is this the gray that I want? And I had already titanium white in my brush, so it's kind of okay. Let's see if it is dark or light. It is a slightly dark tonality. Maybe a bit more of the titanium white will help me to build a lighter tonality of that, and then I can use this for the uses for the clouds that are above as well. So right now, for the clouds that are still gray here, I'm just making that study here. And if you look at the method that I'm using, I'm just touching the brush on the paper. So it's not a great detail that I'm doing. Yeah? So I'm just touching that and seeing how it goes. Yeah, and there's quite a bit of gray shades here. I cannot see much of it. So and when you touch it, usually gives an impression that is slightly vertical. So I'm just pushing them away also to give it a cloudy impression. I go on doing that here as well. There's a lot of lighter gray shades here, and there's blending of that with the white as well, so it's getting even lighter. I'm just trying to do that. Guess this is how it is. This one portion that will get also hidden behind the forest that we will do when we come to the greens. Now I get to making the larger, more gray, I'll take a bit more of the mix that we made. So I'm just going on. These are slightly, it looks like the clouds are moving. They are in movement. It's been a while since I took the picture, so I don't exactly remember the details of how the weather was, but it was a day, it had rained the previous day, so the woods were wet. I could see that, and then I don't know whether it was a windy day, but the clouds, I think, are moving. Yeah, so I want to show those moving clouds. Not exactly to the T that we see in the picture, just trying to see, suggesting where things are. And there's one large lump of this cloud that is gray, but if you see that, this is another thing. It's an interesting, when we look at clouds, it's a lot of interesting things that we can learn. It's never done deal with clouds. There's always interesting elements that you can bring in, and it helps that I did the blue that I did before, because it's starting to blend in also. The reason why I said this is interesting is that you have on this gray shade, there will be some white that will be coming up. Let's do this gray first, and then we will get on to doing the white. So I'm just eyeballing and blending things in. There are some tiny clouds, like more like stripes. If you are a little uncomfortable using this brush number, I'm using brush number 6, I think. You can move on to a smaller brush to do these fine little clouds that we're trying to make, here and there. Some little clouds up there. It's okay, And to this, now I want to do the white highlights. I'm taking a bit of titanium white and blending them in some places, bringing them forward. Okay. Some more here. This doesn't have much, but it does in the tail end of it. So I'm just doing that. Do we have some more here? Yes, we do. I guess I will stop at that for the study of the clouds. Yeah, so we are done with that. And now for some interesting portions of green to go with that will show the forest behind. And for that, I think we took chrome oxide green. I'll take a bit of that. And I'm not doing anything to change my brush or clean the brush. I'm just going to go with the same color tonalities that I already have. So there's a bit of gray already there, because I want to use and blend this and start making the shapes for the green. Remember, I told you that I will make it slightly more greener and brighter behind rather than what you see in the picture. So I'm going to make some changes to what I see. So this is also something, when you do in a study, of course we are studying something, but also trying to learn if we want to change something from where we are, how do we change it? So not too much of a change from the study, but a slight change in terms of the color tonality that I'm trying to build. That's also why I took this chrome oxide. So I'm just trying to see this part. One cannot see much of the green because it's hidden behind the pathways elements, but I will still do some of it just to do justice to that. Okay, so it mixes with the Persian blue that we already have here. So, in here there is slightly, what do you call, a bigger portion of it. So I'm just going on blending it in, and in terms of my approach, I'm just using slight crisscross, not too much to blend it in, not making too much effort to blend it in. And one thing I remember is that, there is some water in between the space where you see this, the forest, and then there is the water, and then comes the rock bed. One cannot see much of it here, but that's how it is. So I'm just going to see that if I can build that concept also in. So right now, the clouds were a little bit of the detail, and let's look at what we are doing on the earth. So on the earth, we are defining the space of land that's got the forest, and then we are going to define the water and the rocks, and then comes the space that we will put in for the yacht and pathway. Yeah, so this is how we are going to split into general sections. Yeah, so again in the step 2, it's no different from step 1. We are again not jumping into details. We are just trying to eyeball and place some key objects. So the earth is further divided into the forest, rocks, the sea, yacht, and pathway. So that's what we are trying to define. This is done, and I would love to jump into the rock area. So when I want to jump into the rock area, I would like to pick up a bit of raw umber. You can use burnt umber, burnt sienna if you do not have raw umber. And also for the green, if you do not have the chrome oxide that you saw me using, it's okay to pick up sap green, yeah, olive green, anything will do. So I took a bit of raw umber, and again I didn't bother changing the brush, cleaning the brush also. Because I really, in a nature study, when you're doing things on the go, I'd like to see how things blend. And now I'm going to put the space for the rocks again, making some crisscross movements. So these are going to be the rock bed. Not properly defined though, but in here they are a little thicker, touching almost, coming close to the forest area. One cannot even see that there is a difference, but over there onto the right, one can see very slightly. If you are drilling down into the picture, you can see that there is a bit of waterway, and maybe a couple of sailors also, kayaking maybe. Yeah, we do see a lot of kayakers on a day like this in Singapore, so could be, but you cannot see them totally. It's interesting. We could place them also and give them character there when we come to the end of it. But right now, I know I'm just trying to put in the space with the raw umber. So I think I have defined that. For now, I'm convinced, and right now there's some angles that I want to define. I will again use raw umber, not because the wood is brown, but there's there's a lot of metallic feel or grayish feel to it. So there are umpteen things in the pathway. Let's just try to define as 2 lines. Again, simplify. Where are they heading? Where is the center of the picture? This is the center. Is the pathway to the left or the right or center of the picture? It's actually not in the center. It's reaching the center towards the end. Okay. So if I say this is the center of my picture, I've just drawn a line. Okay. Very thin line here to see. So this is where it goes, and the pathway goes from here, touching the center, from downwards and reaching there, and then it goes onto the right. You don't see it touching the corner of your paper or canvas that you're painting on, because there are other elements there. I'm not going to go into that detail. So this is my pathway. I'm convinced with the overall spacing of it. So I'm just going to brush in a bit, blending in the brown along with the Persian blue. Okay, good. This is fine. So now, can we define the yacht? Oh, our main subject finally arrives. Okay, where is the yacht? Is it halfway? No. It's a little below the halfway length, and it is. Can we see that it's hiding the rock bed here? Yeah, and then it starts somewhere close to the pathway. So I'm just placing it here and saying this is where my yacht is going to be. The body of the yacht. Yeah, again, we're not going into the details. So this is where the yacht is going to be. So it will take up the space here, kind of hiding. And let's say that is it, again, eyeballing. How far is it away from the edge of our canvas or paper? Maybe I can lengthen it up a bit, yeah? Okay, and I have not changed the brush. I'm just using the same brush. If you're not comfortable, it's okay to pick up another brush to work on. Fresh brush or a little one, the smaller brushes to work on. Okay, so have we defined in the step 2, we were to go on to some more of the detailing, but not into too much of detailing. What have we done? The sky, we have tried to define into different type of clouds that we did. The earth was is now transformed into some spaces. What are these spaces? We wanted to put space for the forest, the rocks, and defining the path and defining the space of the boat or the yacht. What is left is the space for the waterway or the sea that is there. So we have done that, and now we can get on to a little more of the details. Yeah, and if you are getting nervous with me, using this bigger brush, it's okay to pick up another small brush. I'm going to go into using brush number 1. Into defining a little more. I'm picking up raw umber again, because the yacht has some more details. I'm not going to go again. The yacht has kind of, what do we call this? What's inside the yacht? It's like a small little house. Can we define that? So I'm just placing it and seeing where exactly it is. If you see where it ends in the pathway somewhere. Yeah? So this is the blocking space. So I'm blocking it again, blending it in. Not too much of a detail. Okay, and there is some, diagonal element that I have to do. I will place it in detail a little later, but to just define it, we have managed to do that. There is this central pole that goes all the way up. That's also a defining element. And if you want to do that, you can, start placing it. And if you are not comfortable, you would like to put it on a pencil or so, that's fine. But I would say try. It's a study. It's not the perfection that we are trying to aim. We are learning, isn't it? So how will I start placing the line? First of all, again, the same question. Is this line on the center of your picture? No. Where is it? To the left or the right? Yes, a little bit towards the left of the picture. And where exactly is it in terms of the yacht? Where exactly is it? It's a little, can I say 40% of the yacht is here, and that's where it starts, and it's going up. And I see that it's It goes all the way up. So I'm just placing a very thin line for now. Again, no more detailing. That's it. So that's one. And then there is another bigger focus line coming crisscross. We don't know what that is yet. We're not going to go in the details again. So I'm placing that. That's about the detail. Not too much detail, but then the overall idea of the yacht. Okay. Now the pathway. It had too many elements, isn't it? What were they? What were they all about? There are some wooden poles that are not too large, but they are there. So I'm not looking at the metal poles that are longer. I'm just looking at the wooden poles. I'm placing them. I don't know how many they are, but they go on, diagonally. So I'm just placing them. They are a bit longer than what I'm trying to do, so I will try to increase the length of it slightly. Again, not too much detail. One cannot see much of it when you go to the end of it. So that's about this side. Let's do the other side. It's the same way, isn't it? So you can see one log up here, and then comes the other, then the other, then there's a lot of ones. Just start putting thin lines. Just define where they are. And now what else is there? It's this. This is interesting, isn't it? So this one is longer enough to touch. You can see that it's touching the cloud, isn't it? So I'm still using burnt umber or raw umber, but it's okay. And for now I'm just defining the curve of it and then the length of it. I'm not worried about the breadth as yet, but I'm just trying to define the length of it correctly. The reason why I'm saying that, focus on one thing at a time when you are not too much into the experience of doing all this directly with a paintbrush. It's good to say, I'm going to focus only on the length, focus only on the breadth, focus only on the dimension of it, or focus on where exactly is it placed. So one at a time, then you will get there to be able to define it even better. So now I'm going to increase the breadth of it because it is slightly bigger. I'm not bothering to increase the breadth even further because I will work on it with another color tonality when I come to it. So created this one, and we have similarly things going in the same way. And for this, it's just for me to study, isn't it? So I'm putting a kind of umbrella mark. One thing we need to understand is that this is also converging into, where is it converging into? It goes somewhere below the line, this line, that we have of the boat. So this is where it converges into. So this is your converging line, and of course, we have the pathway line to help us define. The next one is again, I'll make a tiny bit of an idea of where exactly it is. Then the next one is even closer. Third, and then the 4th, and the 5th. So we've got 5. And I think I'll know where to stop here because this is a part of the pathway. So we have defined some more elements here, and I like this wheel. I don't know what it is. I don't remember seeing it when I took the picture, but I like it. It's here, and then there's a tiny wheel. I'm just marking it very lightly. I'm not doing anything right now. But for now, can we say that we are, step 1 was to just define the earth and sky. Step 2 was to work on a little more of the detail, not too much into the detail, and defining further what is earth. Step 3 was to go into another level of detail, but again, so reduce the number of details that you want to fly yourself into. The reason why it is why I am suggesting that you don't go into the detail is that there will be a tendency of making it look perfect, and in that frenzy you might miss the big picture understanding. So it always helps to block it down into some basic details that we have done here. So we have some basic details here, isn't it? So that's it with some basic detailing, and now we will be ready to go on to do some more of definitions. One thing we can be sure of is that because we did some basic detailing in a larger perspective, the spacing and such are not too much out of proportion. Maybe not perfect, but then not too much out of proportion. They're pretty much there. Pretty much there. So this helps us to now move on further to the next steps, which we will do right away. Now I'm ready to do the next set of details, but not going into great details yet, but still, getting started from some sections of the cloud first. So I have titanium white with me, and I've taken brush number 2. And I'm just looking at the clouds again in the spaces where I put in the white clouds. Are they too whitey or too dark, too gray? Should I blend them in again or not? So trying to see spaces where I can blend them in. And here I've got a little bit more of oil because I'm sure I'm not going to use, I want it to be transparent and show, for example, show a bit of the gray behind. So if you can see how much of white I'm trying to put in here, it's much lesser. It's just a trace of white that I want to put. So I'll just do that in the spaces where I want to keep the highlight. And if you can see, I also tend to use my finger to push the oil around. Overall, I'm just looking at the gray areas where I did use strong brush strokes on the first go. So I'm just trying to see if there is some tonality adjustment. If I could make, then I want to make that now. That was the clouds on the top. When I look at the clouds at the bottom, they are visibly one step lighter tonality as compared to what we see on the top. So this tonality I want to adjust again, and the same way I will just go on brushing off and using my finger also to just try blending in the white to lighten up these clouds. They could be one step lighter as compared to what the picture shows. So I'm just doing this corrections here, or lightening up the clouds as compared to the clouds on the top. I just want to see if that can be lightened up a bit, because that's what I get to see in the picture. So I have done that. I think I'm okay with the clouds. Right now I am ready to work on the green area and also the rocks. And mind you, in this green area that we have marked, there's also some rocks. So there's different type of rock beds and also some greenery. So we need to blend that in, and I will just put this brush number 2 aside. Maybe I will steadily keep it for the white whenever I need it. I think I will go with brush number 1 to start with, and I have taken a bit of raw umber here. So I think I will go with that to now work on some sections in a little bit more of detail. So again, do not jump into detailing when you are working on a study. So you're trying to understand where is the dark and where is the light, isn't it? So I'm just trying to see the spaces where the brown goes fresh. So it's not a brown, the raw umber kind of brown yet, because we will still blend another color to this now. I'm just going to mark for the benefit of me being able to mark dark and light sections. I'm using one tonality right now. There are different approaches to it. Some people prefer to have the different colors, the tonalities ready, mixed in the palette and then working. I would like to do it this way, to mark the darker tonalities and then blend colors in at a later stage or just shortly after I have marked. So I'm just going on marking, and there will be because of the yacht, there will be a line here which I know, but it's okay. So I'm moving on to this side to see the sections where I want to mark it a little darker, and then this section has to go up. When you see there is the space where we have this yacht's body, the house, and yeah, a lot of lines that are going to come here. But on top of this, if you see the racing, I have missed it. So I can see that this is a space where I want to correct. I will do that. Even though we are doing a study, we want to do it as fast as we can and see how we can understand. But this is also the time when we are trying to gain knowledge, gain momentum, at the same time the knowledge of understanding dark versus light, a distance, what is close to you and what is away from you, and so on. So use this studies as a means to learn these as much as possible. So I have just plotted briefly where I think there is darker tonality here. Okay, that I have. Done that here, and now we know for sure that the rock bed also is much darker. So this is a good dark area, so we can mark it now, but the colors we will blend in will be different. So this is the style that I'm using to blend in colors on the paper or the canvas that I work on. This is just my approach. I've seen different approaches. Like I said earlier, it is okay for you to blend colors, prepare them in the palette, and then go on doing it. If it's easier for you, you're welcome to try that approach. For me, when I am focusing more on the picture and trying to understand the light versus dark logic, I am not too much into which colors should I use and so on. So I prefer to give the key focus to what exactly is the task at hand. And for me, the task at hand is understanding the dark versus light and marking the dark. That's why I just chose one color and went on doing it. So, and here I see a few more mistakes that I want to adjust because the distance. Between the rock bed here and the forest area over there, there is slightly, I made a mistake, so I'm just fixing it on the go and trying to see if I could do that in the same way here. So for me, this is broadly explaining where the dark areas are, so it helps me mark the light shades and the details even better when I get to that, so I don't need to worry about it much. Yeah, so this is fine for me to move on. And for now, if I have to enhance the darker shades and look at what really it is, it's still rocks and some forest area, but because of the distance and because of the weather and the whole atmosphere, they tend to look bluey. Yeah, so this is where it helps for me to pick up again the Prussian blue. So I'm using a bit of Prussian blue. I haven't washed the brush or changed the brush still. Yeah, so I'm just going on, because I already did the painting, it's still wet, isn't it? So it blends in, yeah, in those areas. And not every single stroke that I made previously needs to be redone in the same way with the same color, because you don't see the Prussian blue in all the spaces, or the bluish darkness in all the spaces. Again, less of it here. Yeah, here. That is fine. And when you do this one is much darker, isn't it? So maybe I will use a bit of Prussian blue, and I might pick up ivory black where needed. Yeah, it is getting if you see the darkness that I have created here versus what I'm trying to do, I'm just leaving out more spaces. These are rocky beds, and I want to add some ivory black, and I also want to add some green as well, because the rocks because they are very close to the waterway, they have mosses. That's fine. Here again, a little bit of that. Okay, I have really done it in a random fashion. Yeah. So this is how I have done it here. And I go back to picking up the raw umber. Now, because I've got the blue, Prussian blue, it turns darker, and I wanted it to get darker because I want to do the base of the Yacht. So I'm trying to avoid using black. It's good habit to create your own black rather than using the ivory black. I'll tell you why. The ivory black is beautiful black, but the images that we see, are they really black? These are objects that are not necessarily black, but they appear dark because of the spacing between our eyes and where exactly the objects are placed, and the lighting in the atmosphere, and so many things, isn't it? So when a green substance appears dark to your eyes because of the lack of light, it's not ivory black. So be aware of that and do not tend to go on picking up ivory black. It will look beautiful. I tell you, I'm not saying no to that totally, but still try to understand how did it become black for your eyes to see. The object that is probably another color, how did it turn black totally? So where is the source color? Try to blend the source colors together to get a darker tonality. So black versus darker tonalities, I would say. Focusing more on darker tonalities helps. Okay. I think I'm almost done here. It is a bit of brown. What I used was a raw umber, then a little bit of Prussian blue. There we go. We have it here, finely defined. Okay, fair for now. We are going to do the same thing now for the yacht's line going across, isn't it? We did do a rough line before, so we're going to rework on that. Be careful, gentle, and using the same raw umber plus a bit of Prussian blue, going all the way down. Yes. So this line is done, and towards this line, do we see few more details that we could add it? Suggesting, yeah. So when we are doing a study, we are only making suggestions of the small little objects, not going into great details. What all do we see? Where are they? Why? There's so many objects here, tiny little ones, but these are tying these ropes along, isn't it? So we will come to the ropes, and I am going to do one of the strokes slightly to see how it goes, and I want it to be coming from, this is the bigger one here, isn't it? So it's not a straight one, it is curving away, and I wanted it to go here. That's how it is. So managed to do that. And I used, again, I didn't change the brush. I used brush number 1. If you have brush 0 or something thinner that you feel comfortable to do the thinner lines, it's fine. But again, let me tell you, we are doing a study. This is the time for you to practice. So try practicing with the brush that you have. Yeah? So the other one, that's also the largest one that goes across. And where is it starting? It's again starting the same way, slightly hanging there and reaching this. There we go. I have made it slightly thicker here, but I will adjust it when I go over the green details. So that's what I have done. Now let's see. I am not going to go into the other levels of detail because I think I will need another color to do the house here. But before that, there is one length that goes through here. Got that? And two more similar ones from this angle going towards the yacht. One here. Yeah, another goes almost close to it. Parts ways and goes here. Yeah. Nearly there. Good. Fair enough. Now that I have the darkest tonalities ready, okay, I'm still checking the space behind the yacht. Right behind the yacht, there is some of the rock beds visible. I'm just leaving them there. So now I'm ready to try on another color for the house that is there, a small little cabin inside the yacht. I'm going to try using crimson and blending in the raw umber and the blue that I already had. So in my brush, and see how the color is. It would be okay to try adding a bit of white to lighten it up. It's still on the pinky side, and this is where I said, I tend to use cadmium orange to lighten it up a bit. I think I like the color tonality. It is reddish, but not too bad for what I wanted. So I think I will just continue with that and create the space. I'm filling in, blocking in the space totally. There are, you can see windows in the yard. We could do that. Short while from now, yeah. Okay, so that's where. This helps me understand another proportion error that I want to fix. Just working on the color. Placing this cabin space. I have done it now. And now I see that these lines could go a little away, isn't it? So I see these two lines make sense. These two lines are okay. This one is okay. This one could go slightly away. So I want to adjust that, yeah. That's something I will remember to adjust. Now I'm trying to see if I need anything of this color anywhere else before I move on to another color. To see that, so I think I'm ready to wipe off this. I have a paper towel to wipe off and reuse the brushes. Some people like to clean it and reuse. That's also a good habit. I'm going back to the raw umber plus a little bit of Prussian blue that I have to make the adjustment. So this goes all the way here and goes slightly away. You cannot see that it's actually crossing the second lamp or something, yeah. So it's going away. This one stays, that's fine. And then you have this line. There's a line that we have here like a bar, and it goes straight, and this one tends to have it's not more of brown or raw umber. It seems to have a bit of this tonality as well. So I'll blend that in slightly. Create that, yes. And how far does it go? I think it stops somewhere over here. Okay, we have it. There we go. Okay, fair enough. And right now I'm ready to start moving into the green, which will also help us understand a few more errors or adjustments that we want to make. Yeah. So I'm going back to taking chrome oxide. I haven't washed the brush or tidied it up. Yeah, I still have the brown, but that is okay. I just want it to be used here. And like I said, I wanted it to be slightly greeny, these areas. I like it when I add cadmium orange. So I'm adding a little bit of cadmium orange to this green. You can try if you have sap green or mild green or olive green, you can try that without adding this. I like it this way, so this is my personal choice. I tend to use more of this, and you might have seen this usage in the study one as well. So I'm just going in, knocking in those spaces again with this green. Remember, this picture is not so greeny, but I have decided to make this spaces slightly greeny to give a texture. That's why I have chosen this combination. So if you are wanting to do exactly as you see, that is fine. Then you will stick to maybe just like me, what you picked up. If you have picked up oxide green, the oxide green, the chrome oxide green, Then if you want to blend this with another color, I'll suggest trying a bit of raw umber and Prussian blue to get the tonalities that you see in the picture. But I, for one, have chosen to do away with the color tonality that I see in the picture with respect to the green. It will shift to the colors naturally as well, because we have the other colors here and they will blend in. Can you see that it's getting darker when I add? Because I already have these colors, it will tend to start showing. Yeah, so I'm going to blend in here some of the green, and when I blend them in, can you see that I'm picking up, I'm minutely picking up what is there in the previous strokes that I made. So those are eventually, if you see, those are the Prussian blue and raw umber strokes that I had made earlier. It's no different. So instead of blending it here, I'm just doing it here. That's the only difference. I want, remember we said there should be a bit more of the green here to show. Okay. So these are the spaces for the bars that are coming from the walking area. Okay. Yes, I'm done. So now it looks slightly greenier as compared to what we have in the picture. I want to blend now a little more of what the colors that I had done before to keep the texture. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm not even going to the palette. I'm just picking up what is there in the in my paper to try telling the story. Yeah. So you can, because there's enough oil already on the paper that you don't need to go back again and again. Yeah. Just seeing any other places where I could pick up from. Blend them in. Yeah. Here as well. Fair enough. I think we fairly did this section. This is okay, and I think I'm ready to now knock in a few more of the details of the yacht. So I go back to, okay, so I've got too much green here, so I have to wipe the brush to go back to the raw umber and a bit of Prussian blue to knock in a few more strokes. And there are some more lines here. Guess that's suggestive enough. Okay, some of the lines are traveling all the way down. Yeah. I guess this is enough here. Mhm. Okay. Do we try to knock in a little bit of white to give that added lift? So now be aware, this brush number 2, which I used only for titanium white, when I move that in here, it will tend to blend in, yeah? And we don't want it to blend in too much. It's okay if it blends slightly. It gives another texture, and it helps also because titanium white isn't the color that you will see here. There are different shades of white really when you come closer and look at things. So it's okay that it blends, but it shouldn't blend too much that you don't see the white or the lighter tonality anymore. So the best way would be to keep wiping off the tip of your brush. Use only the tip of the brush. Keep wiping off the tip of the brush while you work on the areas where you want to slightly show the white. So here, can you see that when I'm blending it, it turns into a different color, but I'm just knocking in the lighter tonality, and then I'm going to wipe off again and take some more white to put it in again. Can you see that I'm able to lighten it up a bit more suggestively? And here it helps for me to use the same way for the windows. I don't want it to be, can you see the windows aren't really whitey white. They should have a tinge of gray as well, but we'll do that a little later. I'm just blocking in the space with white. Just lightening it up. The cabin. Okay, there are 5 spaces that one can see in the front view, this view, and the sides have 2. I have a couple of holes to put in here, slightly lightening that up. Okay, so this leaves it white here, and one can see, I can see here that there is a kind of tent or a setup of a tent in white right behind. I'm just doing that, leaving it suggestively. Those were the key white areas that I wanted to do, and there's one more white, not too much, but then it's beautifully suggesting here the boat's body. And this is not white, but one can see a slight distinction. So I'm just going to wipe off the brush and leave the rest of it to lighten it up here. Bad enough. So that's the boat. Coming back to these rock beds. Remember I said I want to blend in green here. So I'm just adding a bit of green. Do not worry that it starts showing so greeny. I'm going to change it right away. Yeah. So I'm blending in a bit of green in these sections. And I'm quickly going to blend them in so that they look different, even the green looks different here. And like I said, I will also be taking a bit of ivory black now to darken up the spaces, some of the spaces, so they will get darkened up. So it will leave you with the thought that it could be slightly green, yeah? So we can create those impressions with these colors here. This is done. And I'm just looking at it before I want to move on to ivory black. I'm going to pick up ivory black. I do not have much of it here at all, so it makes sense to take some. A tiny bit of ivory black. Then I'm going to go over these sections again. Creating the rock bed feeling, yeah? The contortions. So they are going to be slightly darker as compared to the other sections. They will give you a feeling that there's some rock bed or something. Okay. We'll do the same this side as well. So the major color is still dark here. And you can see that it's slightly different, yeah? That's one. I wouldn't want to use the black too much again. So for this reason, I will try to wash the brush. But because I have some of it left over, I'll use this leftover effectively inside these spaces. It will turn gray. We want it to turn gray, so it's not too bright. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's done here. Just trying to see if there is any other space that could do with a bit of black highlight before I wash this brush. Okay. I'm going to wipe off now and I'll wash the brush before I'm getting started with the sea. We are now going to work on the water section. We had started doing that with a darker tonality. Now we are going to make it lighter. That's one thing. And also try to show the effect of water here. So that's what we are going to do. So I'm going to take a brush number 8 and I'm picking up some of the titanium white to mix. And I will take along with it a bit of sky blue and a little more of the Prussian blue to give it a gray tonality. So it's going to look more like gray and less of blue. And a bit lighter than what we did before. So I'm going to take a little more of the titanium white to see if it can be lighter, I get to see that it's almost around the color tonality that I wanted. Yeah, so this is fine for me. I'll take a bit of oil to mix with, not too much. I've done that. So this is what I have done, and I'm going to use this all the way. Okay. Right. So I'm going to work on this section very lightly, and I will leave out. If you see where how I'm doing, I'm not brushing it, just using the tip of my brush, going along. I want to leave it some little scattered, so not perfectly covering it, and giving it the wavy structure that it needs. That's what I'm doing here. So it's going to be like wavy, and if you want to go faster, it's a good idea to go crisscross without much effort. So it's only the tip of the brush, not all of it, and it's going to go. And don't worry about the previously made lines. It was for us to see how the structure was and where we wanted to make adjustments, so we can do it again. Or if you're concerned, then you can try to leave out a little bit of space so you can see that, okay, there's something I want to build a little later. So I have done this in this section without much effort. Half a minute or so, that's done. And then I will do the same thing on the other side as well. Remember, there's some little section of waterway that we want to show there. Even that needs to be toned, but not in the same lighter tonality. It will be slightly darker. If you see that there is a difference between the waterway here and the one that is behind the rock bed. So I want to show that as well. So when I come to this space, doing it, but I will take a little more of the Prussian blue to make it slightly darker around the section. So I've done that here. Nothing much. So this is it. Now I use that the darker Prussian blue also here to create a little bit of wavy structure around. It does give me a nice tonality in some places, so I'm just going to do that. Not in all places, just leave that. So this is done, and I think right now I'll move on to using another brush to create more of the waterway details. And here I'm going to use more of Prussian blue. I'm taking brush number 1. So if I'm going to go over and do this waterway kind of thing, so I'm going to use the effect of the waterway that we created previously with a lighter tone and blend this in to create a wavy structure. So it's always crisscross. One is moving above, one is moving below, and showing that the water is in movement. It's not totally static, though there is, even though it's a place close to the shore, there is a slight water movement. You want to show that. And it's also good to pick up a little bit of black to give an effect. That's also a good idea. But try not to jump into that directly. Let's rely on the colors that we have used so far to build that effect as much as possible. And then we can give slightly black highlights wherever we want to go. Yeah. So it's starting to turn into something. And when you are doing as such, be very sure that this is this is covering the entire space as a second coat or third coat, whatever layer that you are doing. So I'm making sure that I'm not missing out any space doing the layer. So it will pick up a bit of the color from the earlier layer, and as well as the recent layer that we are working on. So I do want it to happen as such. Okay. If you look at the spacing between the wavy structure that I have created, it's slightly broader as compared to what you see in the picture. Again, that's up to you. Do you want to show larger, wavy spaces or minute differences? That's another thing. Yeah, when you study, you are, when you're working on a study like this, you're learning how to create. So it's also good to learn techniques on creating larger wavy structures and also tiny events. So it does help. Okay, we don't see much of this here. So I have created larger ones, and if I were to create tiny ones, I will also do that. I'm taking a bit more of the Prussian blue to see if I could just create tiny waves. So it's just very tiny marks. Can you see how it is in the picture? And just create tiny, so just marks everywhere to show movement. So even the larger blocks that I created, I can make minute shifts to show tiny wavy movements. You can even go even tinier if you want. It's up to you on what you want to show. Yeah. Let me do that here as well. I'm not trying to do too many of the tiny, but as much as I want to create an effect. And I think this is helping. These tiny lines are helping me in creating the suggestive effect of waterway movements here. And let me do that here as well. This is enough, but just to give more suggestive lines, like I said, this last thing I'm going to do is to take some of black, not too much, a tiny bit of black, and do a similar thing, not in all places, in some places, just to give a stronger highlight. So if you practically see, there isn't much difference between the effect that I created with Prussian blue versus the black, but it's just that, when you do too much of black, it starts showing. We don't want too much of that. Okay, I think for me this is enough. Okay, I'm going to move on to the other sections now. So the next section that I want to work on is this these standing posts. They are a bit more on the metallic blue side. Yeah? So the color that we mixed for the waterway helps, but there must be a distinction between this and the metallic blue here, because this is still a fluid structure and this is a stable metal possibly. So I want to use a little more of the sky blue here and see if I can define. So I've mixed to the older color. I've mixed a bit more of sky blue to see if I could get a brighter bluey tonality, but still it gives a metallic effect. It leaves a metallic effect. I can either use the same brush or try to use a smaller brush if I want. That's up to you. I have been using brush number 8 for this color, so it helps for me to continue in this brush and not to waste the oil in the brush. So I'm using a bit of it here, and then I will move on to using a smaller brush when I move on to the sections. Yeah. So if you see how it looks, there is still, the metallic effect, but this is a slightly different color versus when you compare it to the blue, metallic blue that we created here. Good. So this is good. So I'm going to go and switch to brush number 2. Brush number 2 to continue doing this blue. I'm just a little more careful now to work on this section. I want to cover this blue all around because I used raw umber to define spaces when I started. I'm slightly adding a bit of titanium white to what I mixed as the color to work on. You can see that this goes all the way down. This one goes all the way down. So I'm remembering that and coming all the way down, because that's the, that's the way it appears in the picture. I would need a little more of this color combination, so I'm just picking up titanium white and mixing sky blue. And a little bit of Prussian blue, a little more of the sky blue, keeping it ready. Yes. Okay. So now I'm working on this section again to make sure that the fine lines are appearing right. The next one goes here. And it stops somewhere over here. The third goes here. Stops here. And it gets minute. The fourth and the fifth are really small. Also, the area I have painted already in green, so it's coming up, but it's okay, I can manage. And the last one is right here. These two are almost close to each other, very close to each other. One cannot see through in between. So I'm trying to adjust the lines accordingly. This one slightly needs to thicken up. This one as well. So we have these defining lines. And when I go back to this section, because of the adjustments that we made, I just want to make sure that nothing appears odd here. I still have the brush number 1 that's got black, and it helps me here to use the black here to do the adjustments, because I want it will kind of help me push this waterway slightly behind. I don't paint it totally with black. Yeah, so slightly pushing it behind, dulling it down, but I'm not taking any more black from the palette. Whatever is here, whatever is left over, I'm trying to manage with that. Okay, so this is it over here, and now we are ready to work on the pathway. So this is more on the woody side. It's wood, but it's not the brownie wood. It is still having the metallic feel. It's practically fully made of wood. I have seen that, I have walked on it, but still we give the metallic effect. What do we do? The benefit of having this color still around is that you just try to blend in a bit more of raw umber here to see that it is getting a brownie texture, but still on the metallic bluey level as well. So this helps. Let's see how this works here. I'm slightly pushing this tonality here, and remember how we worked, the style we worked on the waterway to create a suggestive movement, a fluidity. This one is solid, but this is flat. So you want to create some flat lines, just these across, just like the way we did the waterways. So I'm just going to catch hold of this here and do this, just 2 lines. So there are lines like this, and then we have lines behind as well. And then comes small pillar sort of things. So I'm just doing this, and don't worry about the color tonality, which is still a greeny side, a bluey side, a metallic side. We will twist it around now. I've done this, left it along, Now we are ready to move on to brush number 1 again, and here I will need the help of black tonality. I can even use raw umber again. I can do that also. I'm just showing one structure how I built. You can see I didn't take too much of black, only the tip of it has slightly, a bit of black, and I'm creating this effect on the wood along. And I'm going to take a bit of raw umber again to show you more on this. Can use raw umber. I think even Prussian blue can help here because it's wet. It's still, even though it's wood, it's totally wet due to the rain and the water splashing and so many things. So there is so much of wetness as well. So you can use boldly all these colors to see how things work. And I try to create that, effect of broken wood, or, that's been tested in water for a while, some old wood. So use this freely, try and experiment more on this. We don't want any colors to look fresh. The more dull it gets, the more realistic it would be. So I'm just trying to play with it and see where things can go. This is slightly lengthier, so I'm just increasing the length of it slightly here, and then I will use the same color tonalities to build a bit more of the vertical blocks, or the kind of poles that are on both the sides. But I will give it a highlight as well. Some of them I will let it be browny, some of them will have the greeny blue effect. So I'm just trying to give an impact of it. So when we do like this, when we practice like this, this, even though it's a study, we will have to make a stop of learning with this picture. Not to say that we stop learning totally, but we say in one observation, one sitting for a couple of hours, maximum 3 hours, this is what I could understand. And yeah, we can always go back and redo this if you want, and see what else do you learn in the next time. What is your observation power in a timeline? What have you picked up from a picture, and what do you want to say from that? That should be the idea of a study. Or I have observed so many things, but I want to learn some technique. So I'm only trying to use this as a means to learn a technique. That could be an approach. So you tell yourself each time you start practicing, what exactly is my plan about the study today? So my plan about the study was to just understand the basic areas and try to do suggestive images. To a certain extent it is done. I have few more features and I want to do a little more of detailing, not too much of detailing. So I will also do that. So for now, what am I missing here are these wooden poles that are in the water, and they are pretty much darker. So I'm using raw umber now to do the line, but I will soon switch to they are stopping somewhere, so I can see that I already made a mistake here. Let me adjust that here. I'll adjust that. So I'm doing these lines in raw umber now. Okay, so this one need not be that big, so I'm just adjusting here. See how well it gels. Now I can, it's always helpful to try in a lesser tonality, lighter tonality. Now I can add black to just strongly represent this old wood that's been in the water. And don't make it too black. It's not so bright blacky, it's black, not that black. So now on this, one can see that there is something like a anchor or some rope moving from here to the poles. That's one. Then what else? Oh, we wanted this interesting element, isn't it? When we started out, I have no clue. I have been to this place many times, but I am interested in seeing this again when I go. Sometimes, the places that we frequently go, and we think we know, look at that observation power that you might have missed something. And I'm actually surprised that I'm seeing this for the first time in so many years of living here. And I'll have to go back there to see what exactly it is. Anyways, so I'm just creating the wheel kind of thing here and the line. There's something here. So yeah, I think it's done. So far, we have achieved basic level understanding of where things are. Let me see, have I missed any important lines or strokes? There is one here that I could have added. Right here, pole kind of thing. That's almost dark. So I'm using the blacky brown. And there's something on top of it. Okay. Yeah, the basic thing is done. We can still work on some highlights, So I'm going to work on some of the highlights now. Where do we start with? This is interesting. Okay, so here I'm going to start with some of the lighter tonalities to see if I have them done, and then work on the darker tonalities. I still have black in my brush number 1, which I want to clean up. I will pick up a little bit more of the titanium white. Okay, so let me see where all I want to do the highlights. The white highlights are in many places. Tiny bit, very slightly on the creases of the rock bed. Not too much. I see them. here as well. Suggestive. And inside the rock bed also you can see some suggestive movements, not particularly in any angle, but you can see them. I don't want to do every single bit of it, but just want to pick up some of it to show. It's nice. Yes, that's one. And where else? Okay, this line can have a slight tinge of sunlight falling on it. It's too much here, too much of white, which I will adjust. There's one nice white line coming along, touching the rim of the yacht. I'm working again on the yacht's head, the cabin's head, or the roof. Slightly more on the whiter side than what I created, so I could do that. And I'm looking at these poles that could go slightly on the brighter side. So there's a bed of rocks right behind, and even those have tiny highlights that I want to do. Bed of rocks here have tiny highlights. Yeah, so far so good here. Now, in here, in the pathway, creating the impression of the wood, creating the highlights. Okay, so we can use a little bit more of that to go on to create some suggestive highlights of the wood. Maybe the highlight a little bit on this tiny wheel kind of thing. Let's do the same on this side. For those who are just listening to some sound of sirens or so, I'm recording this almost around the New Year's time. There's a lot of excitement around New Year, and people do love to burst crackers, fireworks, and it has its own challenges. That's what you're hearing. I'm giving those white highlights to the metallic bars here as well. Not helping. I could have used a clip. sometimes, I just, when I go on with the things that I have nearby, I don't even tend to look down. I do have one, but I'm lazy. I'll do that next time. Just seeing if it is totally getting white, and I want to blend it in, so it doesn't look totally odd. Yes, I think I have it right. Do that here as well. Working on a paper is another ball game. I did tell you that the canvas is one challenge, and working on a paper is different. Always remember that when you are preparing yourself to work on a different medium, try to understand the intensity with which you have to work depending upon the medium you're using or the material that you're using, and to gauge. So it's always a good practice to try on different medium, different materials to work. So when you're doing a study, for example, you would have seen my first study, it was on a canvas. Now I'm trying on paper. So it's a good way to learn also to do in different medium. Your understanding of how much pressure is needed, how much effort is needed where, and how much of the paint and the oil, wherever you are. One thing I can say about the oil painting is that try to use less of the oil. It's good. Less is more, as I always say. So I'm just doing the highlights in white still. I think I am kind of convinced. The shapes need to be perfected a bit here. And I want the bluey gray color appearing again. So I'm just doing that. And I do a little more of the white highlights on the pathway as well. And look at the way I'm moving the brush. I just wanted to give a feeling that, there are strokes, lines appearing raw. I get a benefit out of that. Now I am ready to work on the darker highlights, the black. People who love black will like this section. So I'm taking black and seeing the places where I could do a stronger impact, stronger effect. I can see that there is this image of the black here. There are some, so these poles have a nice black highlight, but not on all the sections, but just be sure not to turn it totally black. Yeah, these were slightly black. We highlighted it and we could just do it like that. This is okay. This was black enough for me. So let's move on to this section and do the black impact. the wood. There are some cracks here. Strong black suggestive. Like you see, it's just starting here, from the metallic poles towards, but not fully. Okay, over here. Fine. Okay, so we again can be carefully placing very thin black highlights on the edge of it. So the white highlights are on the front, the backs highlight the highlight of black is right behind. That's how I've done it, or that's how I see it here, and I've tried to do justice to that to a certain extent. This was supposed to be a bit more on the raw umber side, so I'm just adjusting it again. The lines are okay. This anchor sort of thing was running all along right from here, and I want to do that. Fair enough. And now I see that it's a little more on the thicker side, so I'm just trying to see if I could blend it in here and not make it look totally black. This is what I say, I don't like the raw ivory black itself to appear. It is a great highlight, definitely, but it doesn't look natural. So when you're practicing, you want to use as much of trying to create some reality around it. So try to blend it in. Doesn't matter whether the color goes around or not. Try to blend it in, and then it's a learning. And then like what I have done here, if I have slightly missed the blue mark, I could do it again to reduce the black impact. Yes, I need the clip, I know. Fair enough. Okay, I am going to call it complete, my study complete. Before doing that, I want to do a basic checklist. Let's see. Okay, the clouds. Have we defined the sky and the clouds? I wanted some lighter clouds and the heavier or the gray clouds I have. The forest area, I had chosen to make it slightly more greeny and peppy. Is it looking like that? Yes, it does. But it's too peppy maybe in some areas that I want to blend them in nicely, lighten it up. So I'm using what I have left over with the metallic blue in some places to just tone the green down in some places. I think it is fair enough. The next thing is the waterway that is behind the rock bed. Is it darker? Yes, it is. Maybe it could be slightly more darker, so I can see that I'll use a bit of the black, not too much, to give some more suggestive waves there. Here one cannot see much of it, so just leaving it. And now the suggestive lines on the yacht. What did we miss? I think the yacht has the important components. Right behind the yacht there is this small little white house sort of thing. Tent sort of thing there. So we've got it. And then the important structures here are done. I'll tone down the white a bit here, and this looks okay. I'm just seeing that there could be another curve here. This is one curve. There's another curve going almost close, and we'll do that. So I've done that. Some elements here that are darker. Fair enough. These lines are crossing and coming down. Fair enough. Okay. To a certain extent, I think the yacht looks okay. To move on and look at the rock beds. Slightly too much greeny here, so I'm just making it go down. Adding some black. The highlights are there. Fair enough. The waterway. I don't want to make more adjustments to it. For now, it's okay. The poles here, the line connecting the string connecting the rope connecting the yacht with the pole. Fair enough. This unknown element done. Now let's come to the pathway. Yep. The poles, metal poles, the wooden poles, and the pathway itself. I'm thinking this could have a metallic impact also. Slightly bluey touch, and I do have a bit more of the blue left, and I'm not worrying about it. I'm just trying to see if I could take it up along with the black and see if I could add those values in some of the places to give the suggestive impact of blue. So I'm just trying to use the blue. Now I can use the sky blue also to go over, because it will blend in. So if it's strong, it will definitely blend in with the other colors. Yes. Okay. Maybe a bit of them in the wood, not too much. Okay. Yes, this is it. I will call it complete. And I hope you also have enjoyed working with me on this? If so, please share your comments and also share your pictures, what you've been doing. And this is an observation exercise, isn't it? If you have observed something that I haven't and you have put it in your picture, I'd like to know what it is and how have you represented it. Yeah, so we all observe the same thing, but the way we observe it, the way we want to show things could be entirely different, and that's exactly where we are learning from each other, very different new things. Yeah, so do share your thought process, your approach, and if you have used more of the metallic impact and how have you used it. So all these things I would love to know, and please share that in your in the comments, or also send the mail with the pictures along. So it's beautiful for us to share our thoughts and learn more from this exercise. Looking forward to meeting you in another session similar to this and learning along with you. Signing off from the Clay Studio, this is Komati Sivasankaran.